Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. Unfortunately, we do have a losing episode to start off this week. Jacob, the Cats fall in a game where, they were supposed to lose this game by 11 and a half points. They end up losing it by 13, lose 96 to 83 against the Crimson Tide in Alabama. A lot of weird things happened in this game. Cats jumped out to an early lead, really looked good early, and just couldn't do anything down the stretch. There was a lot of key factors in that. What were some of your big takeaways from Saturday night's loss?
Yeah, obviously to your point, not a game that on paper they were supposed to win. When you're going to Alabama with that level of offense that they had, I thought they would have to play pretty much perfect to get out of there with a win. And my big takeaway was without Lamont and Jackson, I didn't think this team could score enough, and that's kind of how it went. Obviously got off to a really hot start. Kobe was 3 of 4. Andrew Carr playing really well, and you take a 20-9 lead before the first TV timeout, and then just from there, Bama, it was 30-18 at one point, but really Bama kind of just kept trimming away at it, and then essentially just took control right before halftime. Yeah, just like I said, when you play number 5 team in the country, you got to play near perfect. I thought there were a lot of guys that played really, really well in this game, but when you're only getting 2 points from Otega-Oweh and he's fouling out, and Brandon Garrison had a lot of mistakes, I thought at that point you're not playing perfect and you're going to lose the game.
Yeah, just coming into this game, if you said with Otega, Jackson, and Lamont, and even Kirk Creasha, you get 2 points. Obviously, you probably think you lose this game by a lot more than 13. A lot of other guys stepped up, and you could even talk about it even in the other way like that. If you said you had 17 each from Andrew and Amari and 20 from Kobe Brea before the game, you probably feel pretty good about that game.
Yeah.
Expecting Otega-Oweh to do what he had been consistently, which was score 10+. Obviously, probably Otega's worst game so far as a Cat. I know we're going to dive a little bit further into it, but like you mentioned, he did foul out in this game. What did you think about the officiating? Obviously, it's not the reason we lost this game, but I know I was getting super frustrated with some of the calls that just weren't going. They were either going, just against us or even just for us. Just wasn't consistent from one side of the ball to the other.
Yeah, I thought you would save this a little deeper so I didn't get too worked up, but no, obviously not the reason you lost, right? Like again, Otega-Oweh has 2 points. You made plenty of mistakes down the stretch. But I thought it was really poor. Mark Sears, hats off to him. That's the way he plays. But, the dude gets the whistle of a 10-time All-Star in the NBA. It's unbelievable. He just throws his head back. That fifth one on Colin Chandler was about as laughable as can be. He steps on Colin Chandler's foot, and Chandler gets called for a foul. But, the bigger issue for me was, what is the ref doing blowing the whistle and walking down the court with Mark Pope and staring at him? Mark Pope's obviously trying to de-escalate the situation. He said what he said, and then he goes to walk to the other end and start talking to his team, and you got the official blow the whistle, stare him down, follow him down the court, and then Pope turns around and starts walking back up, and he's just staring at him the whole way. That's completely unprofessional, and that's something the SEC should address, because credit to Mark Pope, because if he says one word there, he's getting a technical and he keeps his composure. But yeah, I thought there were some bad sequences. Obviously, Travis Perry got destroyed going to the basket for a layup. He got fouled on a 3-pointer that they didn't call, and then 10 seconds later, Mark Sears pulls up from 30 feet. Otega blows by him. The ref signals for 3, waits, I swear, 5 seconds, and then blows his whistle. Very inconsistent. Not the reason we lost, but extremely frustrating.
Even Ansley's only shot attempt in this game, looked like he got fouled. Didn't have enough landing room there either. That went straight into a fast break point. We'll talk about just the discrepancy there. Fast break points in this game, Alabama 23, the Cats only had 6. Thought that was a key driving point in this game, was that Kentucky was not able to get those easy buckets out in the fast break, especially considering, we caused 15 turnovers in this game, which for an Alabama team that really doesn't turn the ball over that much, that was good to see. So a lot of these numbers, really, if you would tell me, prior to the game, looked like Kentucky had a really good chance in this game, and it obviously just never materialized.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about what we needed from Kobe Bryant. I think he gave you all that and then some. Um, yeah, on paper, there were some stats that you feel like you'd win the game, but then also, getting 2 points from Otega Owe, whose over under was, what, 20 and a half or 21 and a half. Like, that's gonna be tough to win. I did like Pope after the game even said, I'm still not sure what a foul is in this league, and it's just it's so inconsistent. Early on, it felt like they called every foul where if you didn't allow the 3-point shooter to land, it was a foul, and that is a foul by the rule. But like later in the season, it feels like they're just letting all of those go. So I don't know. I don't understand the officiating. It was definitely frustrating, but yeah, the Cats didn't play as well as they needed to.
Yeah, and it's really just the consistency of the officials, night in, night out that really is crazy and what's driving me nuts because, like you mentioned, one game it seems like everything's getting called. The next one is just a mug fest, kind of like that Georgia game where we first had where there was just, not many fouls called, just a lot of physical play. And then in this game, any time that Sears would throw his head back and just like
Yeah,
have any motion towards the rim that was getting called. And, credit to him. Obviously, he has to learn how to be able to do that. Kind of reminded me of a game, Shea's been having for OKC as of late, where he just went 11 of 11 from the line. I mean,
it's
we knew
just
Sears was going to be a problem in this game. Proved to be that. This team's pick and roll defense is still a huge issue, especially when we're going to face elite guards like that. It's really what's getting me worried the most because SEC there's a good amount of guards that, especially if they figure out to get us in these pick and roll situations like they have been as of late. I'm not sure how we're going to be able to stop it.
yeah. I mean, I feel like we have been better at it, and I think we'll be obviously even better once you get Lamont back. But Brandon Garrison is the worst pick and roll defender that I maybe have ever seen in college basketball. Like, just another horrendous game by him. I mean, it felt, especially in the second half, the limited minutes he played, every three that they were getting when he was on the floor was a result of him being out of position on a pick and roll. Every single one. I mean, and on paper it maybe doesn't look like he's the one that's attributing to it, but you watch it and like other guys are having to step up and help, and it's leaving shooters in the corner, and it all I think falls back on him. I think when you have a healthy Lamont and Amari seems like he's playing the pick and roll a little better. I thought Andrew Carr played really good defense in this game. Hopefully that'll get better. Just essentially when BG's not out there and you don't have to play Travis Perry as much.
Yeah, hopefully so. I mean, even in this game, it's probably the least I've seen BG play in quite some time. Still played 12 minutes in this one. And like you said, just the stat sheet doesn't look like, a bad game on his part. 8 points, 4 rebounds. Obviously, the rebounds are something you and I have been really critical of. But pick and roll defense, honestly, the entire team, outside of maybe Amari Williams at this moment, he's the only one who stops like the on ball at any point in the pick and roll screens. And I don't know what it is, but like especially BG, even Andrew Carr at points in this game, they just allow, especially a guy like Sears, to keep penetrating and penetrating, whether it be at a slow pace like Sears usually does. But I mean that allowed him to get to the line 11 times and allowed him to put up 30 points in this game. Literally just got whatever he wanted when he wanted it. I don't know how we're teaching pick and roll defense, but it seems like this is something that isn't just a guy here and a guy there. It seems like it's the entire team plays this pick and roll defense like this. I don't know if there's anything that you had to say about it, what you thought, but I'm just at this point, I think it might be a little bit of how we're coaching this because it's not just Brandon. Andrew does it too. Even Ansley will do it at times. Obviously, none of those guys are great defenders, but I think they would at least know how to play, ball screen defense.
Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't foresee there being a solution here in the next 4 games other than getting Lamont Butler back. That hopefully helps that the best it can. Um, I just think like when you're playing, these high-powered offenses, like we're probably going to have a hard time stopping any of them. You know, without Jackson and without Lamont, like this is kind of exactly how I saw the game going. Kentucky was going to have to score into the mid to high 90s to have a chance to win this game, and just without that, without your number one scoring option, and then your point guard to kind of set everything up. It just wasn't in the cards, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely wasn't in the cards. Obviously, I mean, let's go ahead and talk about Otega Oweh's night in this game.
Yeah.
22 minutes, fouled out, like we mentioned, 2 points on 1 of 9 shooting, 6 boards, 2 turnovers. Just, I mean, really got virtually nothing from Otega. I felt like he was never even a part of this game. Honestly, I don't remember him even playing 22 minutes. It felt like he was almost always on the bench, and when he was in, there was a quick foul call. Obviously, I mean, there was 2 fouls that Otega got called for in this game that I didn't necessarily agree with. But, we keep talking about Mr. Consistency, Mr. Consistency. This just wasn't his night, unfortunately. And even, a typical Otega Oweh night, Cats usually got a good chance in this game with how everybody else performed.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, without question, his worst game, as a Cat. He just never got into any kind of rhythm. This one, it didn't even really look like he kind of wanted to be out there. And then obviously the fouls, especially in the second half, couldn't really get into a rhythm. I thought, to your point, at least 2 of those fouls were pretty bad calls. I mean, just think about it for a second. Otega fouls out with 5 fouls. You got Colin Chandler that plays 12 minutes, has 5 fouls. And Kobe Brea early in the second half has 4 fouls. Like, there was something. I mean, Mark Sears, again, credit to him for drawing them. But, like, part of that was the officials were very whistle happy in this game. And that, obviously killed the 3 of those guys. But yeah, Otega just could never get into a rhythm. The second half, it really kind of felt like the wheels kind of fell off for him. He picked up his 3rd foul very early, puts him back in pretty quickly. He picks up his 4th, realizes the game's kind of starting to get away from us, throws him right back in there. And I mean, you saw it. He had that late turnover right before he, came out of the game that led to the breakaway dunk. Just there was like zero confidence from the second half on out of Otega.
Yeah, and it's really weird, especially how he's been playing, especially as of late. Really been more efficient and just playing, better team basketball. He's been getting more rebounds, been helping you in more ways than he had been, just from the scoring aspect. So I really wasn't expecting this type of game from Otega. Unfortunately, we got it when we kind of needed him most, when he is, probably our number 1 offensive threat at the moment. But I mean, talking about 2 guys that stepped up, obviously Amari Williams continues to step up game in, game out. 17 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 of 9 from the floor, and how about 7 of 10 from the free throw line? He was 5 of 5 the game prior. It's good to see that, he's making these free throws. You feel a little bit better about him going to the line and, getting the ball down in the post when he's able to hit free throws like he has been lately.
Yeah, back-to-back games he shot free throws really well. I mean, really since, I guess, last Saturday at Texas. Amari continues to do a lot of really good things. I mean, 5 of those rebounds being offensive. Amari, I think you kind of made this point a couple games ago. Like, he's going to be a guy at the end of the year, and when this season's over, we're just really going to kind of look back and kind of realize we underappreciated him, myself included. I was very critical of him throughout the non-conference. But, I mean, just think about it. I mean, he has a perfect game where he has, 16 or 17 points in that game, doesn't miss a free throw or a field goal. He's got the 4th ever triple-double in school history. Like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that, minutes-wise, his, rebounds per minute is going to be as good as anybody that's ever played here. I thought he was great again. It was another game where you really felt the drop-off of when he came out and Garrison came in. So I did think, the last 4 minutes probably weren't his best 4 minutes of basketball. Pope kind of took him out and then put him in right with, 3.5, 4 minutes to go. And I think he had 3 of those 4 turnovers within those 3 minutes. But part of it was I think he was just pressuring it because he realized like there was not really a whole lot else going on and going right for the Cats. And at that point, you were still, I guess, within striking distance. I think they were down like 7 or 8 at that point, and I just think he kind of pressed it a little too much. But overall, obviously, another really good game out of him, and without him, you get ran off the floor.
Yeah, and it seems like we've said that last sentence that you just said a lot. Lately.
Yeah.
If, Amari Williams isn't playing to the level that he has been, this team probably gets run off the floor in a lot of these games. Obviously, the only, negative you can say about Amari's game, the 4 turnovers, and all 4 of them were in the second half. And like you mentioned, I think 3 of them were in the last 4 minutes.
Felt like
But
it was like 3 straight possessions or
yeah,
3 out of 5 possessions or something.
but I mean, I think you can probably chalk that up to at the point, obviously Travis still doesn't really feel comfortable with the ball in his hands. At that point, you had lost Otega and Kobe Bray. They were just running like a 1-2 game at that point. Just had to try and get something. Didn't work. Obviously, you don't want to excuse the 4 turnovers, but if there's going to be a guy that has a little bit of that baked-in excuse right now, it probably is Amari Williams. Something I still want to talk about. We say it every single podcast. I mean, only 27 minutes for him in this game, and that feels like it's the highest he's gotten almost all season. I think we were talking about the game with Vandy. He got to 26. This one he gets to 27 and a half. It's starting to creep up more and more. But I mean, with him and Andrew Carr, I feel like they both have to play minimum 30 minutes right now, especially with how Andrew just played. It seems like he's finally fully healthy.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, maybe if Amari is like actively telling Pope like I can't, like I don't know. There's UK people that were saying in this one they saw him asking to come out,
He did
in those minutes.
I didn't see it this one though.
Like I like if he really can't, I get it. You gotta find a way though. Like if his max really is 27, 28 minutes, then you gotta find a way to find minutes that doesn't include Brandon Garrison on the floor. And like every episode I say it and I feel bad. Like I don't mean to just pick on him, but like there's just nothing he gives you. Absolutely zero. We talked about it last time. Every player we can go down the roster and be like, they give you X, Y, or Z. Brandon Garrison, I don't know what it is. It's nothing. It's non-existent. So I think like if that is the case, you're gonna have to, now that Carr's healthy, we gotta, slide him to play the 5 a little bit at times. Maybe you can pull 5-ish minutes where you can play Carr without Amari every game, and get Ansley in more at the 4. But I just think if Amari really only can play 27, 28 minutes, which to your point, I think you made a couple podcasts ago, like just let him go. Right? If we get to the end of the game and he's gassed and we realize it's not going to work, then we'll deal with it at that point. But at some point, you just got to try it.
Yeah, and especially in a game like this where he wasn't in foul trouble, you saw how effective he was, and you knew, especially with the way Otega was playing and how early he fouled out in this game, you knew you needed Amari to be special, and you knew that you needed him to play a lot in this game. And if this wasn't a game, without Jackson, without Lamont, that he wasn't going to play that, I just don't think we're ever going to see it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. But especially once you're healthy, I think there will be ways to get him minutes where it doesn't feel like you're getting killed as much, right? Like there's ways to get him a break. Like I said, I think a lot of it's got to be you're going to have to put Carr at the 5. I just don't know what else you do at this point because like you can't play BG for even 12 minutes at this point, right? Like he needs to be a guy that's getting like 6, spot minutes here and there just to really when you have to have those guys a breather.
Yeah, the only bad thing about that is right now, really, a couple games ago, a couple weeks ago, there were people coming for those minutes. You had Trent Noah playing well and stepping up. Ansley was starting to play better and a little bit more consistent. Right now, nobody is stepping up to try and take, those minutes from Brandon Garrison. Trent Noah played almost 23 minutes in this game and virtually gave you nothing. 2 points, 3 rebounds. I mean, we've continued to say how much Trent's grown throughout the season. Seems like over the past couple games, at least the past week specifically, seems like he's taken a huge step back. And I know a lot of that is because of the athleticism factors that he has and he's dealing with. But we can't make that excuse for everybody on this team because we got to be able to win games even with the non-athletes that we have.
Yeah, and like I get it, Trent Noah and Ansley are inconsistent, but I still trust giving those guys, the 15-ish minutes over Brandon Garrison. Like at least Trent Noah and Ansley, like we've seen it at times. Like I made the point, like Garrison maybe gives you one good game every 6, 7, 8 games, right? Like it's very, very rare. And for me, I rather you roll Trent Noah or Ansley out there, rather than giving those minutes to Garrison. But yeah, I mean, obviously you would like to see those guys be a little more consistent, but I just think even with what they're giving you, I would take those guys over what BG gives you.
Yeah, man, if you had told me at the start of this podcast that I would have been the one sticking up and defending Brandon Garrison in this moment, I would have called you crazy. But right now, I do think Ansley needs to play more. He only played 9 minutes in this game. Obviously, the stats that he got doesn't warrant playing him more, and at least in this game. 0 points. The only stat he had was that registered 3-point attempt, which, in all fairness, he did get fouled on. Obviously, they didn't call it. But, I mean, you have 33 minutes from Trent Noah and Ansley Almanor, and they give you 2 points and 3 rebounds in this game.
I mean, but what does Brandon Garrison give you on a night-by-night basis? I mean,
Yeah.
you've heard me say it multiple times. Like, I don't think he gives you anything. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. I mean, I just
like that's my point. And
at a certain point, you have to just have some height and the ability to at least show. I know Brandon doesn't get, contested rebounds or block shots, change shots, but just that a bit, even the height. Like I don't know if you ever seen the movie Rebound where they have the hammer and he comes out. He's awful, but he just comes out, just to show a little face out in this game.
But does PG even give you that?
Right now, I see Trent Noah go onto this floor, and there's never a spot in which I feel good about him at this moment. I mean, him playing 23 minutes in this game, I thought was honestly probably one of Pope's worst coaching decisions so far in this game, outside of his consistent misuse of Amari Williams and only playing him 27 minutes, and 27 minutes at max.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like again, you look at Garrison's stats. 8 points, 4 rebounds. You look at that in 12 minutes, you probably think he played an okay game. But I think whoever you had at the 5 in those situations would have grabbed those 4 rebounds. They essentially fell in his lap, and the 8 baskets were pretty much, or the 8 points were pretty much just open layups that kind of Pope had schemed. So I think if you play Andrew Carr at the 5 in those situations, you're going to get the same production. So. I don't know. It'll just be something we disagree on, I guess. But yeah, me personally, would take as many minutes as I could from Garrison and figure out other ways to get other guys out there. And part of it is just maybe we just need a short, like we've talked about in the past, like this rotation in general just needs to be shortened. Like take your best 7, 8 guys and just run with it. You look at it every year. Like usually the teams that win the national title, they have a rotation of 8 that they really lean on. And
yeah. I agree to an extent, but at the same time, do we ever know which is going to be our best 7 or 8, at least with the lineup that we have now? Because at any moment, Travis could play poorly. Colin could step up. Trent Noah can play bad like he did in this game. Ansley can be a non-factor. I mean, there's just so much inconsistency on this team from a night in, night out basis that I don't know if you can shorten the rotation just because of that reason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You take obviously the 4 of Kobe, Ortega, Amari, and Carr. If you get, Lamont back by Saturday, like there's some reports out there, well, then there's your 5. And then from there, you're really just saying, Ansley Amador. I don't know. You figure it out, I guess, from there. Once Jackson's back, then right there, you're to 7. Part of it is you got to get all those guys, you got to get both of those guys healthy. And that's obviously a big, if or, when it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, if once you have Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler back, I'm fine with Travis Perry's minutes going way down, and you could essentially make Chandler your first guard off the bench. I'd be content with that.
That was the amount of minutes I want to see from Travis Perry at this moment. I know you and I don't necessarily agree. I didn't think he played well in this game.
I thought he played well. I thought it was one of his better games.
He had a couple of back picks for steals in this game, which make it seem like he had a better defensive game than he did. 12 points, 4 of 11 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3. Gave you 1 rebound and 1 assist from your point guard. With how big of a liability he is defensively, especially against a guy like Mark Sears, I can't have the guy we talked about all offseason about how you hear, oh man, this guy just doesn't miss threes. I can't have you going 1 of 7, especially those aren't those Kobe Bryant threes where he's having to do it off the dribble, forcing it, step back. These are just pure wide open threes that he's missing. And if he's not going to be able to give you the ability to knock down open 3-point shots, right now he has to play. But if we get to a point where you get Lamont and Jackson fully healthy and they're giving you the 30 minutes a game that they were prior to the injury, I don't think Travis Perry has a role on this team.
I will say I thought he forced a couple, especially early, but I also kind of think that was kind of Pope's philosophy. And I didn't listen to the post game press conference said, like maybe even Pope said this, but like I really felt like if you watch Travis Perry and Kobe Brea like early in the game, they were just letting it fly. And I think probably Pope told them like, hey, if we're gonna win this game, we're gonna have to go out and play with zero conscience and just shoot the ball really well. And again, there were a couple I thought Perry forced. Also, if you call the two fouls that he got hacked on, there could be an extra 5 points right there, and making his stats look even better. But yeah, again, I said it last time. I'll say it again. Travis Perry was never made for this moment. And you can say like, well, we got to figure out other ways, but like at some point you got to have somebody to play point guard. But like Travis Perry wasn't brought in for this year to be playing 28 minutes in SEC play. We talked about it. If you told us that at the beginning of the year, we would say things have gone horribly wrong. I think when we talked about him in the preseason pod, we were saying, he would play 4 or 5 minutes a game, maybe. So I think he gave you the one thing I really liked that I saw from him on Saturday was he wasn't afraid to drive the basketball and he didn't look scared on the road. We saw that early, especially, when Lamont first got injured on the road, he kind of turtled a little bit. And I didn't feel like he did that. I thought he played very free, played very loose. And in 28 minutes, I think he gave you about as good of a 28 minutes as you can expect from him at this point in his career.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's just a topic for him, maybe not getting that many minutes. Obviously, he's kind of forced his role into this at the moment. I can't find a world where even with the rotation we have now, the guys that we have out, I just can't find a place to where he gets 28 minutes, especially against a guy like Mark Sears. It just seems like the worst time for him to play that many minutes in this game. Obviously, with Colin fouling out,
that's the part. That's the thing. Like if Colin Chandler doesn't have 5 fouls or pretty much picking up 3 in his first 10 minutes of game action, like you probably don't play Travis Perry 28 minutes. Like it felt like there was like Colin Chandler got in very early in the game. It felt like the game plan for Pope was to play Chandler a lot and not play Travis Perry 28 minutes. But when Chandler can't take a step without getting a foul called on him, like your hands forced deep. Like again, somebody's got to play a guard. You got Kobe Brea who's in foul trouble all game, Ortega's in foul trouble all game, and Colin Chandler's in foul trouble. Like besides Travis Perry, you don't have another guard to roll out there. So like he had to play 28 minutes in this one.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's probably the reason we lost because he had to play 28 minutes in this one. I mean, you just mentioned him there. Kobe Brea, I thought it was a pretty good game from Kobe. 35 minutes. And just talking about somebody who's playing more than you thought they would have. At any point, I don't think we ever expected Kobe Brea to be playing 35 minutes. 7 of 17. Obviously, not the most efficient game, but somebody had to take those shots. 4 of 10 from 3. 20 points in this game. 2 assists. Best thing I thought that he did. No turnovers in this game. Obviously, what I was going to bring up with Travis Perry is Alabama doesn't cause, a lot of turnovers. They're not a good defensive team. The reason why I think, Travis wasn't as afraid in this moment as he was against other teams. But I do think Kobe Brea was good in this one. And, I think that's our first loss where Kobe's hit more than 3 threes in a game.
Yep. I thought this was one of obviously his better games. You see it with the points. The big thing for me was the volume of shots he was taking. Like obviously he had to, and it got skewed a little bit because down the stretch he was really kind of putting some up in some tough situations when the game was essentially over. But 4 of 10, like that's the perfect, like him shooting 40%. Like if he's shooting 10 threes a game at 40%, I'm extremely happy. Like the guy cannot shoot the basketball enough for me from behind the arc. And then you kind of mentioned this off air, and I agree completely. He's doing all the other things, I feel like, a lot better than, he's much more of a complete player than he was early in SEC play. He's the one guy outside of maybe that Texas game that I really feel like has stepped up with these injuries. And he's a guy, even when Jackson and Lamont come back, you're going to have to find a way to play him as much as those other 3 guards because he's earned it.
Yeah, definitely has. And like you mentioned, just being, at least in this game, the stats might not back it up, but the ways he's affecting the game outside of just being, that shooting threat. In this game, I mean, he only had 1 rebound and 2 assists and a steal. But I don't know if it's just you or I feel like he's the one guy, him and Amari, probably just the only two, that have taken, leaps and bounds throughout the year,
Yeah.
even on the defensive side of the ball. Now, granted, Kobe's not a great defender, but
He's gotten better.
I'm not at the point where earlier in the year where you saw Kobe playing, one-on-one defense and you just knew it was a bucket. I feel like right now Kobe's giving you, especially with that size that he has, he's, affecting some shots, getting some steals. I'm really impressed by why I've seen him grow on the defensive side of the ball, which is why I continue to get mad when I hear national talking heads and even local guys say, "Oh, this team can't get better defensively." Yeah, maybe they're not going to get a lot better, but they can definitely get better. You see that from a guy who's a fifth-year senior and who's played a lot of college basketball, continuing to grow.
I would argue, real quick on that point, then I'll go back to Kobe. I would argue, though, this team has gotten better defensively. You look at their KenPom stats, they've gone up like 30 spots. Obviously, that's before the Alabama game. But, we were in the 70s, and now I think, we were like mid-40s before the Alabama game. So I would argue that this team has gotten better defensively. Now, there's obviously still a lot of limitations with the, athleticism that you're playing with. But all in all, this team's gotten better. Back to Kobe, to your point, there's, I think, three guys that I feel like have gotten significantly better throughout the year. I would say him, I would say Amari, and then before he got hurt, I would say Jackson Robinson, because we were really seeing him come on, in SEC play. And then if you can, if Andrew Carr can get back to what he was, non-conference and play like he played, especially in the first half in this game, if you get all those pieces healthy, I still feel good about this team. But, yeah, Kobe, again, when those other two guards come back, he's still got to, I feel like, find a way to be on the floor for 30-ish minutes, and I still want him shooting 10 threes. I don't care who else is out there with him.
Yeah, I mean, Kobe has to shoot, especially for this team to take that next level, even when we do have the other guys get back. But a guy that you mentioned that hopefully he's going to be getting more and more minutes, as he's continued to get more and more healthy. Andrew Carr, 29 minutes in this game, 17 points, 6 rebounds, hit 3 threes in this one, gave you 2 assists and 2 steals and a block shot. We getting Andrew Carr back? Is this finally, the second half against Duke? Andrew Carr, we getting him back?
I think so. I mean, again, it all depends, on the back. How's it feeling? I'm sure it's one of those things that, might be on a night-by-night basis, right? Anybody that's dealt with a back injury will tell you it kind of flares up randomly, and so there could still be some games down the stretch where it doesn't feel the best, but I think I text you guys, he looked so good, especially in those first 10-ish minutes before he came out. I mean, how about 3 of 5 from the three-point line? He was getting back to getting in the post and kind of working, down low. He's a consistent scorer when he's healthy, and it was obviously something this team was missing. And again, he's always been kind of one of my favorite players on this team. I really like him. If he's healthy, I think he can be as good as anybody on this team. And I thought Saturday was a huge step in the right direction for him.
Yeah, and hopefully Saturday was just a step in the right direction for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these guys did play well. We mentioned, some of the guys that we didn't think played well as well. Obviously, not necessarily what you were looking for from Colin Chandler in this game. 5 points, obviously fouled out in only 12 minutes. I mean, I kind of want Brandon Garrison to have one of those games where he comes out there just being super physical. I mean, can we get Brandon Garrison to do that? I mean, I might pay him. Can I sign him to an NIL deal where I pay him like $100 for every game he fouls out?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen, unfortunately. Colin, I thought again he came out with a lot of really good energy. I thought a couple of those fouls were cheap. That obviously put him in a tough spot. Again, I felt like Pope really wanted to play Colin a lot in this game and get him kind of going early and, limit some of Travis Perry and whoever else's minutes. But unfortunately, the refs just didn't let that really become a thing. And, Colin got in foul trouble pretty early. And, I like that Pope kind of left him in with the fouls. He had, 3 in the first half. Pope went right back to him early in the second half. 3 fouls in 5 minutes in the first half. I mean, it's a little much. But again, I think they were calling anything and everything whenever Mark Sears had the ball, unfortunately.
Yeah, and just want to talk since we've talked about this game already. I don't know if you have anything else just on the topic of this one.
This one, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Again, does this game like change like the direction of like I think of this team's entire season? No, it was frustrating because of how good you started, but at the end of the day, Alabama's got a lot of firepower, and even fully healthy, I don't think you're keeping them under 90. So I think you really just kind of missed the offense of your starting backcourt.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. And obviously, I talked myself into hopefully Kentucky winning that game last week.
I did too. I bet the money line. I told you I would. I got there.
Especially, they started it up 30-18, and man, just took the wind out. I felt like the smartest guy alive
Yeah.
through the first like 12 minutes of the half. I was feeling great. I was at Chili's having a triple dipper, cats
On
are up.
National Margarita Day.
National Margarita Day. I mean, everything was flowing for me. I was firing on all cylinders, and then we go into halftime losing 47-40.
Yeah.
Just took the wind right out of my sails. But I did just kind of want to talk about the team, big picture so far. 7-7 in SEC play. Obviously, I think when we did our, pre-SEC, I think we both predicted. I think it was like anywhere from like 6 to 8 losses, both of us, for the season. Obviously, we still have more games to play. We're gonna have to play Missouri, Auburn, Oklahoma. I mean, we got good teams that we still have to play. What are you thinking? 2-2 for the Final Four? You hoping for, or you want to go a little bit better than that?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously, I would love to go 4-0. I mean, don't get it twisted, but no, I mean, obviously, we made those predictions not knowing just how good the SEC is. People can act like it's an excuse or whatever, but like just look at it. At the end of the day, Kentucky's still, I think, projected a 3 seed. They're going to be a 3 or 4 somewhere in that line in the NCAA tournament, and you could be the 9 seed playing on Wednesday in the SEC tournament. Like that's a very real possibility. This league is loaded. So obviously, if I knew how good the SEC was before the season, I probably wouldn't have picked. I think I had us going 12-6. Like I probably wouldn't have picked that record. But yeah, I would obviously take 2-2. I said before Vandy, I said I think they go 3-3, and I thought I kind of predicted they would maybe lose to Oklahoma Wednesday night, but find a way to either steal Missouri on the road or Auburn at home, and I'm almost kind of still leaning that way. So, but I think especially like if let's just say Jackson and Lamont don't come back until SEC tournament, I think if you can steal 2-2 here, you feel really good.
Man, we got to have them play one game before that tournament. I don't.
Or that, yeah.
Whole team all together at the minimum, I think, just to get the team firing a little bit. Because worst thing I want to do is have these two guys come back in with guys who have increased their roles and have to try and mesh all just in the SEC tournament. Because it might be harder to win the SEC tournament than it is to win the national title. In all seriousness, with how many games you're playing. Especially as of right now, I think we're the 8th seed as of now since Mississippi State just lost to Oklahoma, who we are going to play on Wednesday. I mean, you're talking about winning 5 games in 5 days if we end up being the 9 seed, and all against great teams, except for South Carolina, who you play.
I would say that that's almost certain, and then like I would say it's not even a question. It's easier to make the Final Four this year. I mean, even if you get a first round bye, and you play on Thursday, your second game of the tournament's going to be Auburn. like there again, you could play. Let's just say, I mean, 3 of the top 4 seeds are very well going to come from this conference. To make a Final Four, you would only have to technically play one of those type level teams. So, it's definitely like the SEC tournament's going to be a ton of fun, but like. There's going to be really good teams. There's going to be, tournament level teams that are done playing on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I can't do it again. Back-to-back years, having to lose in the first round and going to Nashville for the rest of the weekend in all my UK attire after just losing. I can't do it again. I need some wins down there in Nashville.
There's a real chance you may not even be seeing them play on Friday.
Luckily for me, I'm leaving, early Thursday morning to get down there. Hopefully before that first Thursday game, hopefully we're obviously getting that bye and playing at noon there. But Oklahoma, the team we're about to play, just helped us out with that because they just beat Mississippi State, who we're going eye for eye for to get that first round bye in the tournament. What are you thinking about Oklahoma? Obviously, 17-10 so far this year. Good team. Obviously, Otega Oweh revenge game. Playing his worst game of the season. Now is playing not his alma mater, but whatever you want to call it. I
Yeah.
don't know. His
Where he
previous
started.
college,
Yep.
he's going to be playing. What are you expecting to see in this game?
I mean, Oklahoma is obviously like they're a team on the bubble, right? I think right now they're in the tournament, but like they could really use this win to kind of solidify them. I don't know when the last time Kentucky played at Oklahoma, if ever. So like, it's gonna be another one of those cases of that road environment's just gonna be rocking. I mean, Oklahoma's been, I would say, pretty inconsistent. They've had obviously some big wins, those in the non-conference, um, but then also a couple in the conference, right? Like you just saw them beat Mississippi State. Um, they beat Vandy by 30. I get it, that's Vandy, but at the time they were ranked 24th, and they beat them by 30. But then obviously some pretty bad losses. They lost to Georgia by 10, got absolutely steamrolled at Alabama, lost by 20 to Florida, lost to LSU. So, like, this is just another game. If we were completely healthy, I wouldn't even really worry about it. With the injuries, playing a lot of guys in key minutes, you could go and mess around and lose. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Yeah, and if we're wanting to get to that 2-2 stretch through the final 4 games and hopefully get us, the one round bye in the SEC tournament, this has got to be one of those wins because you don't want to have to go in and have to steal one against Auburn or Missouri, how well both of those teams have been playing as of late. Obviously, the road atmosphere, it's going to be, like you mentioned, who knows the last time we played out in Norman, and it's going to be at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
They're going to be ready to go. I mean, I don't feel great about the game, honestly, but I'm probably going to pick the Cats to win, but I don't feel great either way.
Yeah. On a bigger note, I would just like to voice my displeasure in the 9 p.m. game. I mean, come on, guys. To be fair, though, this has been our only one this year. So, well, in the conference, it felt like we were always playing 9 p.m. on Tuesday. So I'll take it, just the one.
Yeah, I really just don't like the Wednesday tip-offs. The Wednesday tip-offs really throws off my entire week. Throws off the podcast schedule and all of that. And I know you weren't a fan of. They finally announced the Kentucky Auburn time slot, and it's at 1 p.m. And I know you weren't a fan of that one either.
Well, yeah, I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, I do have a cousin that plays for NKU, and that's senior day. They play at 1, so families. I gotta be there to support family on Saturday. So, unfortunately, I'm gonna be trying to follow that game on my phone. But nonetheless, if Kentucky does win against Auburn, which I'm probably gonna predict, I'll be celebrating accordingly after.
Yeah, and I'll be in a full suit and tie to celebrate that game. Hopefully, if Kentucky were to win it. But I do want to just talk, go apples to apples here. Kentucky, Mississippi State. Mississippi State's final 4 games, we're obviously playing them for this 8th seed. They got at Alabama, LSU, Texas, and Arkansas. I think it's a very easy chance they go 3-1 in that stretch. And if Kentucky's want to be able to keep, obviously Arkansas's playing a lot better. Texas just lost to a very bad South Carolina team, and LSU playing a little bit better as of late, but still not one of the worst teams in the SEC. Kentucky's got to get this win against Oklahoma if they're wanting to keep pace with what you think Mississippi State should do.
Well, you do have the tiebreaker over Mississippi State, so you just got to match their record. To your point, but I mean, they're not beating Bama tomorrow, so I'll put that out there. That's a loss. And then Arkansas is obviously playing better. My prediction of Arkansas not making the tournament is probably not going to hold up, even though I did have some money on them to beat Missouri. I liked them on Saturday, but I could see Arkansas getting them the last game of the year. Especially that kind of being one where they feel like they could really use it to boost their resume. So, I would think they go 2-2 in that stretch. So, again, it wouldn't shock me if Kentucky loses Wednesday night and then comes back and beats Auburn or goes and steals that Missouri game. It really wouldn't. So, you just got to find a way to go 2-2 over these next 4.
Yeah, and there's nothing more I hate than saying in basketball you got to go 500. It sounds like the worst, mentality to have. But I mean, a team 7-7 so far throughout conference.
At this point, it just is what it is.
Yeah, and hopefully, we're getting a lot of those guys back. Hopefully, you start to see either Lamont. I don't think any of them are going to be playing on Wednesday. Hopefully,
Pope did say they both practiced today, so that's obviously, a start, right? That's a sign. Yes. So hopefully, there's some rumors that Lamont will be ready to go by Saturday. So, and then Jackson, maybe by Missouri. So, I think if you guarantee me that right now, I'd sign up for it.
Yeah, I think I'd sign up with it for you as well. Cats need to minimum go 2-2 because I don't think there's a way in which Mississippi State goes worse than 2-2, and nothing sounds worse than Kentucky having to potentially play 5 games all at noon down in Nashville. That just sounds awful. That sounds like I'm going to be at Broadway at 2 p.m. and a little intoxicated at the time.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a little intoxicated Thursday at 2 in the afternoon. Come on over to my side, buddy.
Especially while in Nashville. Yeah. All right, Jacob, go ahead. Give me the prediction for the Wednesday night game. Wednesday, 9 p.m. in Norman, Oklahoma, against the Sooners. What do you got?
Well, I'm hoping I'm doing a little bit of my reverse jinx. I took a break from it, so hopefully we can get it back working. I will pick Oklahoma. Again, don't want to. Hopefully the Cats prove me wrong. I'll say Oklahoma 89, Kentucky 84.
All right, and I'm starting to catch a little shriek here of whatever I say is going to happen in the game might happen player by player basis, but the result has been flipped for the past. I think I've literally gotten the past 5 games wrong. Yeah. So, in efforts to try and keep that going, I'm gonna pick Oklahoma to win this game. I'm gonna say it ends up being a little bit more low scoring than what we're typically used to. Oklahoma wins this game, 84-76. I'm reverse jinx. I got to try it because it seems like any time I pick the Cats to lose, they win. So I'm going to keep riding that train. If the Cats lose on Wednesday, I'm done with my reverse jinx. But until it's proven wrong, I'm going reverse jinx.
Let's try it out. Yeah, I'm all for it. I guess for an MVP, I'll take back-to-back really strong games from Andrew Carr.
Yeah, what really stinks about this, man, is I feel like of the past 7-8 games, I've been almost dead accurate on my MVP picks. I even had Carr on this one for the Bama game. He had a really good game. I just can't get the picks right. So don't follow me. Just get player props. If you want anything from me, get some player props. Don't get anything else. But I mean, it's hard to go against Amari Williams and how he's playing as of late. Might be the chalk pick, and obviously, neither one of us taking Otega Owe, even though he's playing back in Norman. It's a little bit of a surprise, but I got Amari. If he's playing really well in this game, especially if he controls the paint, I think that's a good way for Kentucky to win this one.
Yeah, I agree completely. Now, let's just buckle up and go do it.
All right, guys. Cats need a win Wednesday night in Norman. This is the Cats Talk Podcast. That is Jacob. I am Cameron. Follow us on all our socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Get the podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. Wherever you can listen, we're on there. With that being said, go Big Blue.
Go Cats.